What kind of country is the Republic of Korea? It is a country that protected itself for 5,000 years, ending with the Joseon dynasty, multiplying its descendants and developing its DNA. Ultimately, it left behind 30 million people, and these people had children who are now growing up here in the Republic of Korea. They created the state name, the Republic of Korea. Thus, those born under this state name of the Republic of Korea are the Hongik Ingan leaders who are being born now. 1 against 100. The 3,000 rai land of embroidered rivers and mountains. While the world left behind 3 billion people, we left behind 30 million as 1 against 100. Our 30 million ancestors and predecessors gave birth to the last generation of descendants, and the Republic of Korea is the country where they are being raised. And how did they raise them? They ensured that both men and women grew up while acquiring knowledge together. This is God's doing. That is how the structure was set up. That is why the national flag was raised back then. The national anthem was revealed back then. And within it all, what did it say? May God bless and protect our country for 10,000 years. That is how this country was raised. May God bless and protect. Since the last generation of descendants was born this way, our people, regardless of gender, attaining knowledge all together is something that has happened for the first time since creation and for the first time in 5,000 years of history. We must consider this very important. Why would God make it this way? What happens if you do not acquire knowledge? You cannot behave like a human being. To live like a human being, one must acquire knowledge. Therefore, 100% of the people in the Republic of Korea, regardless of gender, became equal. Even the Sangmin disappeared back then. In terms of acquiring knowledge, a Sangmin class should not exist in such a society. But the Sangmin disappeared in the Republic of Korea because everyone acquired knowledge. So, when both men and women attained knowledge together, what happened? When the world progressed by 30%, while humanity was active, we did not do much. Instead, while they were active, what they did was colonize this country and that country, merging them to make big nations, and in doing so, they moved cultures around and did that kind of work. Moving human culture around like that is what making colonies is. The law of the conservation and movement of energy mass. When talking about energy, it means knowledge and culture. When this accumulates too much, it has to move. It has to move to a place where energy is lacking to expand it. That was the era of colonization. If I try to elaborate on this, it will get too long, so I'm trying to shorten it, which makes the words stumble a bit, but we need to solve this comprehensively. Even if it takes all day, we have to solve it. Thus, while the West was doing all that work, what kind of shoes do you think we were wearing here back then? We walked around in straw shoes. When you visit places like France, the reason I visited was to see how these people lived back then and how they live now. I visited Italy, I visited France, I toured all around, I toured the United States as well to see how they live. From when and how did you guys manage to live the way you do now? Traveling around to observe, this is what you call manhang. If you go to France, the last place I visited recently was France. I toured Italy and France together, and the houses in France are built so well with stone that they remain like cultural heritage. It is incredibly nice when you go there. When were those houses built for people to live in? It was about 120 years ago. Those houses are 120 years old. Then do you know how we lived 100 years ago? We used straw to block the rain, walked around in straw shoes, and if we were a bit well off, we carved wood to wear wooden shoes. That was the kind of time it was. Yet, they still preserve that over there. It hasn't changed. Why hasn't it changed? So that people from all over the world can come and see it. People from all over the world, including those who used to wear straw shoes. That is why so many people from the Republic of Korea go there now. We have to confirm all of it. So I went there and was deeply amazed. Previously, I had only gone as far as Italy. Oh, it was grand. But when I went to France, wow, Italy looked like the countryside. Whether it was the architectural style, the system, or anything else, Italy felt rural and old, requiring constant repairs and being less sturdy. They only built the cathedrals well. Just the cathedrals. After I went to Italy a few years ago and spoke about this, they are building anew now. But when I went to France this time, they really built it so well that it would be a waste to tear it down. So I visited the Louvre Museum, and I also went at night to sense the energy. While they were giving birth to culture and practicing politics in those places, we were walking around in straw shoes, splashing around whenever it rained, and using toilets where we had to ladle out the feces. That is how we lived back then. If you ladle it out, what does that mean? It means there was no lid. If there was no lid, it means we defecated and everyone smelled it together while living. It gets incredibly interesting if we dive deep into this, but let's shorten this a bit too. We need to talk up to this point. So those were the places where they lived while giving birth to that culture. There was a culture of architectural style and other things, whereas we only had a culture of building tile-roofed houses at best. Instead, we highly developed the culture of making tombs. We developed making tombs for the noblemen, leaders, and kings, and we had the tools, but we could not give birth to this kind of societal culture. However, after World War II broke out and we became absolute beggars, a declaration was made from then on. When we were living as absolute beggars, they taught us, who had no such culture and walked around in straw shoes, that we were born into this land with the historical mission of national regeneration. They taught us that we must brighten the spirit of our ancestors and grow by developing our individual talents to achieve independence within. They taught us that it is time to contribute to the common prosperity of mankind with that strength. They taught us by beating us with sticks in that impoverished country. Therefore, to send everyone to school, people from all over the world came into this country, which was poorer than Africa, the poorest eating country in the world, and built schools for us. Schools. UNESCO needs to unearth this. In that poor country, if you look at the photos taken on the streets showing how poor it was, when old things come out now, a lot will come out in the future. How Jongno looked, how people walked around, and even the eyes peeking through did not look like civilized human beings at all. In that place where people lived like that, a new change occurs, and they build schools. From elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way to university later on. We didn't build this. Missionaries and people from all over the world came in and built them all. By building them, they sent everyone to school. By doing so, they raised these people. The ultimate intellectuals of humanity were raised. The knowledge and culture they used, the knowledge and culture built up over thousands and tens of thousands of years, poured into this narrow country, Haedong Republic of Korea, all at once. And where exactly? Right in the southern half of the divided peninsula. Knowledge did not enter North Korea. North Korea is not the one that needs to take responsibility. What kind of responsibility does North Korea have to take? North Korea's role was to act as a shield and a breakwater until South Korea rose up, making sure no one could touch South Korea. Since they act as a shield, what would they do by learning a lot of knowledge? Sacrificing until South Korea rose, acting as a thick buffer so that no one could invade from the continent, making sure no country could carelessly mess with South Korea. That trick is what divided the South and the North right now. North Korea was sacrificing and waiting until South Korea rose up. Because we cannot untangle this, we fail to be grateful to North Korea. We cannot talk to each other, and by continuously remaining adversarial like this, we cannot achieve unification. North Korea has its merits, and South Korea has the work it did. We must acknowledge their merits, recognizing that they went through so much suffering and sacrifice so that North Korea can also release its hostility and engage in conversation with South Korea. Since South Korea has fully risen and acquired all the knowledge, these people should have researched and understood North Korea. Therefore, even if we just grasp the basics of these things, we will know what to research and what to do in the future. Thus, all the knowledge and culture of humanity came in, but it was directed only into South Korea. Not a single drop entered North Korea. What kind of phenomenon is this? We should have researched this as well. Religious culture all entered South Korea, but could not enter North Korea. In that manner, they poured their soul into raising this South Korea. The reason they ultimately raised the people referred to as the Hongik Ingan leaders of South Korea, or the descendants of heaven, was to fulfill their historical mission, to brighten the spirit of their ancestors, to grow their individual talents and achieve independence within. Not the things given by humanity, but to find a new, upgraded, advanced culture right here. We grew up while acquiring the knowledge that humanity had produced. Knowledge isn't about acquiring something that didn't exist. They organized what humanity had produced and called it the answer, and then put it right in here. Thus, they made us absorb all of it. If this much knowledge from the world poured into ordinary people during that era and did this to them, most people would have gone mad and died. They wouldn't have been able to accept it. But because they are the descendants of heaven, because they had developed this much DNA, even though all kinds of things poured in and individuals were made to handle them according to their talents, not a single person went mad. If this many religions poured in and grew to this extent, religious wars would have broken out and turned things upside down. Look closely at the world. 90% of what happens in the world is religious wars. Yet, all these religions that were produced were put into this Haedong Republic of Korea, and we all just said, let's believe in this religion, let's believe in that religion. We went along saying, let's believe in God, let's believe in Jesus, let's believe in the Virgin Mary, let's believe in Buddha. But why didn't a war break out? Because it was the let's believe cult at the lowest stage of gathering people. Since they went to believe, until when do they believe? They are still believing. So there is no reason to fight a war. Everyone just has to keep believing. This thing called religion is culture. Culture. Tremendous cultures emerged from within it, and all of this culture poured in for us to handle. We were meant to look at this and see how humanity lived and find if there are any weaknesses in it. This data, the knowledge and culture, poured in for the people with the smartest DNA to absorb and research. Humanity lived this way. But are there no weaknesses here? Do we have to live this way in the future too? They told us to try living in families this way. They told us to change into the clothes they wear. So everyone is wearing suits and Western dress now. We are supposed to inspect whether there are any side effects to this, but we are just showing off. Currently, side effects are appearing in humanity. Where? Starting from the Republic of Korea. Side effects are occurring in every culture. It is being revealed that it is not the right culture. And having tried all the ways of living in society that humanity used, we are currently experiencing all the side effects as we live. We brought over the politics that humanity used, and we put effort into the culture called welfare that humanity uses until now. But far from a welfare society emerging, we haven't even clarified what welfare is yet. Currently, what humanity does is say that one must receive education, but they don't even know what education is, nor what culture is. So when people talk about education, it becomes a business, the education business. We can tell immediately just by speaking the words. Knowledge business, does this work? Knowledge is something you acquire, but for education, it fits right when the name business is attached. Then welfare. This fits, right? It falls perfectly into place, a perfect combination. Then cultural business. It goes like this. So what kind of era is it now? It is the era of businessmen. This is something you need to understand well.